Scottish history has thrown up perhaps more than its fair share of strange and garish characters, from Sonnybean to Buchan here, but Elspeth Buchan is definitely one of the more enigmatic ones. You may not have heard of her or of her cult, the Buchanites, but for a time all of Scotland was scandalised by her and her heresies. Even Robert Burns confessed a fascination for the cult, which he may have known from its early days in the Ayrshire town of Irvine. Elspeth Buchan was born Elspeth Simpson in 1738 in Banffshire and was farmed off to strangers by her father when her mother died when she was just 3 years old. Employed as a cattle herder from a young age, she spent a lot of time on her own, during which she later claimed she had had visions. A well-to-do female relative took her in, fearing she was growing feral, and attempted to tame her with education and religion. When her female relative married a man who had a plantation in Jamaica, Elspeth was due to go with her, but instead, while they had a long wait in Girvan, Elspeth gave her the slip. She met her future husband in Ayr. He was a potter who moved a number of times after they married for work. They had 3 children between them, all of whom would join their mother later in her cult once they were grown up. Now, for some time, Elspeth ran what was called a dame school, where she taught reading, writing, a little bit of crafting and Bible studies to children. This is where she began to evolve her ideas about religion. She began to get involved in local theological discussions and began to become increasingly fanatical. She took to fasting until she made herself ill and spoke about her beliefs as prophecy. She began to neglect her school and family as she was forging her own version of Christianity. Her explorations led her to get in touch with Reverend Hugh White in Irvine, who was a radical preacher in the Free Union Church there. Elspeth corresponded with Hugh White for 4 months before she came to Irvine to meet him in person. She was in regular correspondence with a number of ministers across Scotland and England about her religious theories, but Hugh White was the one who was most interested in them. Hugh had been a Church of Scotland minister, but then had gone on to teach in a university in America before returning to Scotland and joining the Free Union Church. Elspeth would quickly come to claim him as her spiritual man-child, and he was very soon suspended from his post in the church for his association with her and her heresies. These heresies included her belief that she was the woman clothed in sun described in Revelations, and that she would give her followers immortality by breathing on them and transferring the Godhead into them. She believed that she would ascend to heaven without dying, and that she could release her followers from the bondage of law, something which particularly rankled the church establishment. What she was saying was that her followers could not commit sin, and that was antithetical to the church teachings. Now, a fundamental part of Elspeth's belief system was that the end of the world, Armageddon if you will, was fast approaching. This she had come to believe from her visions. The imminence of the end times underscored all of the reasoning for what was to follow.